Okay, Drew, I've made a decision. 2020 has just gotten to a point where I'm not taking you lying down anymore. You know what? I'm not going out in 2020 like Jack Porkins getting taken out by some cannon that couldn't hit any other X-wing in the sky, but it found him, and he just gave up the ghost right away. No, I'm going out. If I'm going out, Drew, I'm going out like Arvel Krind. You know who Arvel Krind is, Drew? Do you know who Arvel Krind is?
No.
Arvel Krind is the A-wing pilot that when he heard Admiral Akbar's order of concentrate fire on the Super Star Destroyer, he decided that there were things worth dying for, and he flew his A-wing right into the bridge of the Super Star Destroyer, making it crash. So you know what, Drew? Hold on a second.
Is that a bong?
No, it's a bottle. Hold on.
Okay. Sounds kind of like a bong. It's a family show, Carl.
It's not a bong, it's a bottle. I'm trying to catch up to you.
Oh my lord. Well, I mean that's going to take some effort on your end. I don't recommend it.
That water is not nearly as alcoholic as I was hoping it was going to be.
No, you want vodka for that.
Okay, all right.
Take a breath, man.
I had a moment.
Yes.
I had a moment.
Yes.
I had a moment.
I'm the angry one, remember?
I know. And Drew, you have to ask yourself, if I'm becoming the angry one too, how bad is 2020 really getting?
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Okay, so we're here. We're back. I had a moment. I've recovered. We're going to do 2020 Arvel Krind style.
All right.
That's what we're going to do.
Let's go.
Okay, so, folks, welcome. We appreciate you joining us. We got some stuff to get into. We've got some stuff to talk about. I think it's going to be a really fun show, really interesting show. I've been looking forward to the show. It's Tuesday night. Is it Tuesday? Yeah, Tuesday night.
It is.
We unfortunately weren't able to record over the weekend for, we'll just say, life reasons. I don't, like, Friday we couldn't do it, and Sunday we couldn't do it, so I don't know.
Life finds a way.
Yeah, life finds a way. So we're here, we're recording, but before we get into all the other stuff that we gotta get into, the reason for my kind of like anti-2020 rant today is that a legend has slipped the mortal coil today. We received word that Eddie Van Halen succumbed to throat cancer today, dying at the age of, I believe, 66. Far too young. And this one hurts. This one is a gut shot because, like, as you and I have discussed, Drew, we're kind of getting to the age where our childhood is starting to leave us in very small, sometimes very painful increments. For my early teen years, like earlier mid-teen years, when I got my driver's license and whatnot, days before social media and cell phones, obviously. So you got a bunch of friends together, you piled in the car, and you drove around, and you looked for something to do. Probably end up at a mall with no money in your pocket, nothing to buy. I had like a fairly solid core group of friends that would, I would drive around, and if you rode around with me in those days, in the Thunderbird, just cruising around, the album For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge was definitely on heavy rotation. There was also like a couple other Van Halen albums, but that was the one where I really got introduced to Van Halen and just really enjoyed them. I've, for better or for worse, my Van Halen is the Hagar Van Halen.
You're something of an oddity.
Van Halen. Well, what are you gonna do?
That's all right.
More than the David Lee Roth Van Halen. So yeah, and this was a key part a key cog in these very pleasant memories I have is this, obviously the music and like so much of that great music from the '90s. And so hearing that he passed away too, I know he'd been battling throat cancer for a long time, but just being another thing on top of another thing on top of another thing that has been this year. So this one really hurt today. When I got the news, I actually typically if a musician passes away and that musician has had an impact on me, like one of my immediate reactions is to start listening to their music. So after the shock of it and everything settled in, I put on From Awful Carnal Knowledge. I was down in the office working, and just very uncharacteristic of me, and for lack of a better term, I just started to rock out. I was banging my head, I was air guitaring, I was spinning around in the chair, I was air drumming, I just felt a lot of aggravation and frustration that had been like pent up and building up over the year just kind of exit the body. So maybe it was as Eddie giving me one last pleasant memory, saying just use this music to get this stuff out. So Eddie Van Halen not being with us anymore really sucks. And so yeah, but as we've discussed many times before, Drew, I listen to music. You make music. So when you hear music very differently than I hear music, and you can interpretate and appreciate music on a much different level than I can. So tell the listeners why Eddie Van Halen was so important to music and why he is truly a legend.
He more or less is responsible for the modern, I'm air quoting, I'm trying to find the best word for it, but he reinvented guitar playing, basically, in a way that the only name before him that could have such an honor would be Jimi Hendrix. So, like, Eddie Van Halen's guitar playing and style completely upended what everyone else was doing or thought was possible with an electric guitar at the time that he did it. So when he came out of the gate, it was just a complete, sonic boom, pun intended, to the guitar community. And suddenly you had guys who were trying to copy Eddie Van Halen, and you had guys who were struggling to figure out how he got the sounds he got. He not just his playing, reinvented the electric guitar, but also like his approach to the instrument itself. His choice of guitars, his choice of like parts made guitars, different necks on different bodies with different pickups, kind of all hacked together, kind of. Different effects, different hot rodded amplifiers to get his sound. This was all radically new, wild stuff that no one had ever heard before, and with talent to boot. And on top of that, he could also write, amazing songs as well. Van Halen had how many hits, and it's not just because of his, exceptional guitar playing. It's because he was also a gifted songwriter. That gets lost along the way for a lot of guys, and I like to I always champion the songwriters over the technical marvels, but Eddie Van Halen was a guy who had both. So that's kind of how he really that's his legacy to me. I was never a huge Van Halen fan musically. They have hits, I don't dispute that, and they're good tunes. They just weren't necessarily for me. But his impact I'm a guitar player, and like I've grown up in a post Van Halen world, so like the doors he opened up for the instrument cannot be understated. So I certainly appreciate his impact in the guitar world. The amp that he created with Peavey, the 5150, is still the de facto one of the gold standard heavy metal amplifiers to this day. Every single band in the last 30 years probably has used it, tracked with it, or has it on the record in some form or fashion. it's I'm not even exaggerating. It's a standard metal production piece of equipment, and that's his. He made that. So you know, it's a huge loss. I can't say I'm surprised, unfortunately. He smoked his whole life. I'm pretty sure he smoked. He was probably smoking till the day he died, unfortunately. But last year, David Lee Roth made some statements, and he didn't necessarily say in as many words, but if you read between the lines, he intimated that Eddie was not long for this earth, unfortunately. The cancer, throat cancer, but it had spread, unfortunately, to other parts of his body and his brain. And, cancer is terrible, man. It spares no one. So, it sucks. It's a tragedy. It's amazing to think that he was 65, 66 years old, and yet somehow it feels like it feels like that's still, that number like shocked me, because I thought he'd be older, at this point, but
I think the reason for that is
still too young,
Yeah, and I think the reason for that is because we are of an age to where where music became a thing to us, where we started to comprehend music. Like, he was part of that thing that was already there. Like, you talk about how I love, Metallica, your love of Metallica, my love of Guns N' Roses, and those are things that were kind of there as we began to have music as a part of our lives. So we never knew a world without Eddie Van Halen.
Right.
And we never knew guitar playing without his influence.
Yep.
So I think that's kind of the thing that makes it feel like he should have been older. So yeah, it sucks. It's a crappy way to have to start. Obviously, we wish the best to his family and friends. And we thank him for everything he gave us. But let's move on, Drew. Let's shed the valley of the shadow of death and move on to more positive things that we enjoy talking about. Let us seek the joy and the goodness in our time together, and share that with others, so we don't have to focus on so much of the unfortunate that's happening in the world around us. So, that being said, sir, how were your weeks?
Well, I wish I could transition to something cheerful here, but stressful. Apparently I need a roof, Carl. Apparently I need a roof.
I saw that on the Facebooks.
That is what we say in the Italian world, a spicy meatball.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not happy about this, but that's the world I live in. So it's fine. We're getting some quotes on it and whatnot, and we're refinancing right now anyway. We have a lot of equity in the home, so, I mean, there will be money made available to get the roof put on. It's just money that I didn't anticipate spending on a new roof in this home. So, not the super best news this week, but that aside, I also did some cool stuff this week. So, for one thing, I celebrated my 10th wedding anniversary. I believe you did too.
Ninth.
Ah, okay. Well, 10 for us.
We share the day.
Yes,
October 1st.
That's correct.
You guys were 1 year ahead of us.
So, my gift from my lovely wife for our 10th anniversary was a outdoor pizza oven, and it's pretty baller. Ooh. Not gonna lie, it's pretty baller. So I've been enjoying that. Cranking out some wood-fired pizzas outside has been a lot of fun. We got brave and went to a, we couldn't do dinner, so we did lunch. The dude makes dinner difficult in any capacity. Yeah. So we did lunch while he was at daycare at, Stolat. It's a Polish bar, attached to a Polish bakery, attached to a Polish, pierogi, place in the Eastern Hills Mall.
Okay.
Nice, you know, very nice actually. I first time I'd been really inside of a restaurant in 6 months or more now, and it was, you know, I felt okay. Everyone was, you know, at their tables far enough away, and servers were all masked up and everything. So, you know, safe as you can be. Food was excellent. I would definitely go back, although I'm not in a hurry to go necessarily anywhere. It was an occasion, so which is why we went. But in an alternate reality where this wasn't a thing, I would definitely go back to that place fairly regularly. So that was fun. And then the day after, we took Grant to the Children's Museum at Canalside.
Okay.
That I recommend highly. If you've got kids, which you do, super super cool place for kids to like learn a little stuff, you know, learn some stuff, and also just kind of like go crazy and have fun. And it's really really just big, cool little exhibits. There's like car stuff for them to learn on, and like there's like a pretend car on a lift that they can put tires on and like go under the hood and do stuff and learn about how cars work. There's a whole water based exhibit kind of thing where they can like learn about how dams work and how, you know, boats work and that kind of stuff, you know, canal side and whatnot. The third floor has some sporting stuff, Buffalo being, you know, pretty big sports town. And a farm exhibit where they can learn about farm animals and farming and yada yada, and just a really overall super cool. It's just strictly for kids. I mean, little kids especially, probably around William's age and to like 10 maybe, were really appreciated the most. So we were there for, I don't know, we were there for an hour or so, and Grant just went nuts, and we had you know, it was nice, it was good. So
Nice.
that was pretty cool. That aside, I'm not up to too much. Same old, same old. Playing Golf Story still, hopefully nearing the end. Although I do enjoy the game, but it's like my backlog is starting to grow, and I want to get into another game. And I'm definitely every time I try to do more than one game at a time, it just never works. So I'm doubling down on Golf Story, and then when I can take that off the list, I'll move on to something else. That's about it. How you doing? Yeah, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. Past couple weeks have been, you know, a lot of game related stuff.
That's good.
Actually, I actually have two reviews first, which I'll get to momentarily. I finished the Rise of the Red Skull campaign for Marvel Champions. Very challenging and also very enjoyable. Having to go through it was an expansion that came with 5 new villain sets and 2 new heroes, and the villains were Crossbones, Absorbing Man, Taskmaster, Zola, and Red Skull. And the new heroes were Hawkeye and Spider-Woman, and just really enjoyable. And Fantasy Flight Games, who designed the game, of course, making it so that you can play any one of the villains in the standard mode of the game by themselves. You don't have to play them in the campaign mode. So that was very nice. So yeah, there was that. We also got Mario 35.
How's that going?
This week. Have you tried it yet?
I've not.
It is good. It is enjoyable. It does not have the intensity that, say, Tetris 99 has.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's basically, you don't have to have. Now, I say this, and I haven't won a match yet, but like anytime I've lost a match, it's been because of my mistake, not something another player was able to do to me. So you don't really have the intensity and the stressing out that you do when you play Tetris 99 that you do when you play this, but it's still enjoyable. Like, it's fun when you've got, you know, you've got the fire flower, and you see a line of like a dozen or more Koopa Troopas and Goombas coming at you, and you just lay into them all. One of the things that kind of I think detracts from the experience from it is that you can set it up once you get to a certain point in the game. It does not take long to get there at all. But once you get to a certain point in the game with the coins you're able to bank, you can set it up so you start the game with firepower.
Okay. Isn't that like cheating?
Kind of, because like you don't have to really do anything to get that. It's just like, come on, don't give that to me to start. Make me earn it.
Yeah.
So Mario 35, good, fun. It's free. It's limited time. So if you have a Switch, I would recommend it. And so, like you mentioned, there was an anniversary. The wife and I had our 9th wedding anniversary. We did not really go anywhere so much. Again, everything being closed. 3-year-old or 4-year-old, so on and so forth. But I was able to get her, and this is my first review. I decided to take a chance because she's been exercising a lot, and she's been on diet. She's been doing amazing on it. She's lost 20 pounds already. She's been doing so great. But one of the things she tries to do is planks throughout the day. Are you familiar with planks?
I am, yeah. Yep.
Okay. So she tries to do them multiple times throughout the day, but William, being a 4-year-old, says, "Oh, this is time to kind of have fun with mommy and whatnot." He's, climbing all over her and whatnot. So they're not as effective as they normally would be if she could just, do them. So in an effort to assist her with that journey, I took a chance and got her a Ring Fit Adventure for the Switch.
Uh-huh.
Now, if you were to tell me that, if you came to me and said, "Hey, I'm going to get Jen this thing that's specifically a workout thing for an anniversary present," my initial thought would be, "No, don't do that. That's not a good idea." Because typically, if you buy a significant other, that it almost says that you're implying something. Even if you have a very understanding significant other, you don't want to take that chance.
Mm-hmm.
But 2020 has been bad enough as it is. How much worse could a trip to the emergency room be? So I took a chance and got the Ring Fit Adventure for it. And Drew, this thing is really surprising. This is a legitimate workout, cleverly disguised as a game.
That's what I've heard about it. Like, it's kind of like, it's like Wii Fit, but they somehow made it more gamey.
They made it more gamey. They made it just, I think, overall better. She absolutely loves it. She's been playing it like crazy. She was playing it before I left to record here now. And she's really enjoying it. And she's always like, sweating at the end of it. It's a legitimate workout, and you unlock more stuff to play as you go in it. So anyone who has been somewhat interested in this thing but not quite sure, I definitely recommend it for a pickup. I may start using it myself at some point.
Go for it, man. Do it to it.
So, which brings us to our second review of the week. Oh, Drew. Oh, Drew. Every in the dark shadow that is 2020, a little light has fallen. And it's a little light in the gift in the form of Star Wars Squadrons. And when this was announced, I was like, okay, it's been a long time since we've had a Star Wars game solely dedicated to ship-to-ship combat. This has always been like an aspect of a lot of the games released, but I think it's since the Rogue Squadron games, the last one coming out for GameCube, I believe, was Rogue Leader. Uh, it's been that long since we've had just like a strictly ship-based game. And you and I have talked about this a lot. We've mentioned it a couple times on the show that I've really wanted. Like I've really wanted a game that was a heir to the X-Wing and TIE Fighter PC games. But I didn't think there was a way it could be done on a console. Like I thought the best console that had a shot at it was actually the Wii U, because the second screen touchscreen actually opened up a lot of interesting possibilities for that. But oh boy, Drew, have they done it? And I think I know we are big on giving full credit where full credit was due, and Drew, I have to give full credit to Electronic Arts, to EA. They've really turned it around with the Star Wars license, because they had a disastrous launch of Battlefront 2, and it, like, saying it was anything short of disastrous is underselling it. And by all reports, Disney was obviously very unhappy with it, and apparently there were some conversations had with EA saying, hey, right the ship or we're pulling the license. So they turned around and turned Battlefront 2 into an incredible game. They kept loading up with content upon content upon content. And as far as I know, they're still adding new content to it. And this game, I think, is at least 2 years old. So, and then they came out with Jedi Fallen Order, and they said right off the bat, single player, no multiplayer, no microtransactions. There's the game, have at it. And the game was good. The game was really enjoyable. So they had that, and then they announced Squadrons. And then they announced that Squadrons was only going to cost $40. And immediately I'm like,
that's suspect, right?
Something's fishy.
Yeah.
What do you do in EA? You don't like to throw away money when you can clearly make people pay for it. So yeah, it definitely seemed kind of fishy. And then more and more reports coming out about what they're doing in the game. They said they're taking a lot of cues and whatnot from the PC X-Wing TIE Fighter games. And, more and more stuff came out. They came out with some great character introduction, sort of little vignettes. Did you watch that one I sent you?
I unfortunately did not.
Okay, that's fine. It was incredible. And so the game launched, and they've said, to this point, they've still said, there's no DLC planned. They wanted to sell it as a complete game. They understand that it is relatively light on content, which is the reason for the price tag. So let's get into this. This game is freaking incredible, and everything I've wanted out of a Star Wars space combat simulator for a long, long time. It feels very much like the old PC X-Wing and TIE Fighter games, and also the old Wing Commander games.
So more of a sim than a arcadey space shooter kind of game.
Right.
Cool.
Right. This is
cool.
Definitely simulator. So there's two aspects to the game. There's the story mode and the multiplayer mode. The story mode is short. It's 6 to 7 hours at the most. And for the most part, it is an instructional video for how to play the game. That being said, just because it's short doesn't mean it's not good. It's a very good, tight Star Wars story. Picks up relatively soon after the Battle of Endor. The Empire's kind of on their heels. They've been retreating a lot. And you play through the game as a member of Titan Squadron for the Empire or Vanguard Squadron for the New Republic. And you play through both aspects of it. And the story's good. It's tight. Like I said, it feels like a Star Wars story. The crux of the story is the New Republic is constructing a new battleship called the Starhawk, and they're basically building it out of parts of old Star Destroyers. And so Vanguard Squadron is trying to help the ship get completed, and Titan Squadron is trying to destroy the ship. So I would definitely recommend, if you are going to get this game, play through the story mode in its entirety first. Because A, it's not very long, and B, it's going to teach you a lot of things you're going to need to know about the game before you jump into multiplayer. So let's get into the multiplayer. The multiplayer has two modes to it. There is either dogfight mode, which is 2 squads of 5, just straight up team deathmatch, going at each other. First team to 30 kills wins. And then there's also fleet battle mode. And this is kind of where the game really shines. The fleet battle mode is, again, 2 squadrons of 5 with AI backups. And it's kind of a tug-of-war battle. So there's 2 sides to the map. And each side of the map, there's a flagship. There's a Mon Calamari MC-30 for the Republic and a Star Destroyer for the Empire. And the first part of the match is basically your dogfighting in the middle of the map and to see who gets the momentum shifting their way. And if, say, the Empire gets the momentum shifting their way, then the Empire can then move on to attack the New Republic's light cruisers. And so the New Republic can either push them back to attack the Empire's light cruisers, or they can destroy the light cruisers and move on to attack the flagship. And attacking a flagship is not an easy thing. You can't just fly at it and necessarily expect to live. Like, these flagships live up to their reputation, as they can wipe you out very quickly. So the modes for multiplayer, while light, are both very high quality. There's not a ton of maps. There's 6 maps, each of them varying different obstacles and whatnot to them. Each side has 4 ships. For the Republic, there's the X-Wing, the A-Wing, the Y-Wing, and the U-Wing. And then for the Empire, there's the TIE Fighter, Interceptor, Bomber, and then the TIE Reaper. So each side has a ship and a class: fighter, interceptor, bomber, and support. And the ships all feel very different from each other, and you can unlock upgrades and do different loadouts on your ship, customize them the way you want. There's some cosmetic customization you can do to the ship. You want to be like Red Squadron in an X-Wing, or Blue Squadron, or like Gold Squadron in a Y-Wing. There's all that stuff. As far as the play control, this game is hard. It is hard and has a very high skill ceiling if you're not willing to put in the time. You can't. I think in my first match, I maybe got 2 kills. And I want to say, Drew, there are few things more satisfying than scoring a kill in this game. Like, I played a game last night where I had 14 kills, and I felt like I just gone like 200 kills to 3 deaths in Call of Duty. Just like, it felt so satisfying. Again, it's a simulator, so getting a beat on the target can be hard. No button on the controller is wasted. Every button does something. And the intensity in which you're flying, like, you have to manage your ship. You're not just flying your ship. So if I'm in a Y-Wing and I'm heading at a light cruiser and I'm heading at a Star Destroyer and I want to try and do a bombing run on it, I have to shift all my power to my shields, and then I have to redirect my shields to the front to allow me to kind of give me the best chance to survive the onslaught. But the problem is that leaves me vulnerable from behind. If a fighter comes in, it can easily pick me off. It is challenging to learn how to optimize your ship because you're doing more than just flying it. You're managing its power. You're trying to repair it. You're shifting power as you're chasing someone down. Like if I'm chasing someone down and I can get a beat on them, I'm shifting my power to my weapons. But if they're outmaneuvering me, I'm shifting power to engines so I can either keep up with them depending on what they are, or just to try and build up some boost and get out of there quicker. It's incredible. The level of fun and intensity that this game brings. It has exceeded my every thought and wish for this game. I cannot recommend it highly enough. It's probably my game of 2020.
Wow. That sounds like everything you wanted and more.
Yes.
And at a $40 price point, which is, again, pretty impressive.
Yeah. I would highly recommend trying it out.
Cool.
Do it. Do it. So,
should I let the English see me do it?
Yes, would let the English see you do it. That is our weeks. And folks, we would love to hear from you. Tell us about your weeks. Tell us how things are going. You can reach out to us and send us emails and questions at the following social media locations. You can like our page on Twitter. You can follow us on Twitter. You can go to facebook.com/devilsdupod and like our page. You can email us at thedevilsdupod@gmail.com, or you can find all these resources available to you on our website, thedevilsdupodcast.com. Drew, that being said, we do have some emails.
All right.
First up, Mr. Cyrus Moore, friend of the show. Greetings, gentlemen. Hope you are well. My email this week will be relatively simple. I'd just like to congratulate you on having what appears to be a mighty fine football team this year. I'm sure it feels like a long time coming. I'd say there's a good chance we see your team in Kansas City come playoff time. Drew, I'm not going to lie. It's been a lot of fun watching the Buffalo Bills play football.
I haven't been witness to a good Buffalo Bills team since I was a lad, a wee boy. So this is all new to me. I've been something of what's the best? I don't want to say a hater of the Buffalo Bills, but I've long given up any.
Been a realist.
I've been very real for a very long time about this team. I mean, they had that drought. The playoff drought was just. I mean, that's if I had no illusions about the team. Okay, for a long time. I approached every game like a comedy, and I was never disappointed, even in the worst of times. So that's where I kind of was. Now it's like, you know what? I think they're good, and even like the first 2 weeks they played Miami and the Jets, and it was like, well, how good are those teams anyway? But now they've played a couple teams that are actually supposed to be on paper anyway, real teams, good teams, and they've come out ahead. Now that the LA game, there's definitely some cause for concern, but they won that game, so that was a lot of fun, a lot of stress, a lot of fun. And then the Raiders again are supposed to be a good team, and the Bills handled them pretty easily. So I think the Bills might be a actual good team, and that's a lot of fun. And this is a new concept for me, so I'm just kind of enjoying it while it's here.
We're enjoying it while it lasts. We're Buffalonians. We have no illusions that this is a thing. Like, I am going to enjoy the ride while it's here.
I mean, I'm not predicting this, but there's always that outside chance that they go on a ridiculous 6-game losing streak or something like that. It's
of course
it has happened before. But I don't feel like that's going to happen this time. But
Yes,
but
a 4-0
again,
start for us is not unheard of. It's rare. It's not unheard of, and all those seasons have ended in calamity.
exactly.
So, yeah,
doesn't it feel a little different this time?
It does feel a little different, but we are still guarding our hearts.
Oh, I have armor, sir. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and we're gonna see because the Bills do have to play Kansas City in a couple weeks, and that if you were to tell me that before the season, I would automatically say Kansas City is going to absolutely decimate the Bills, and now I'm not so sure.
I don't feel they will decimate the Bills, but I still feel they will win.
That's a fair assessment, but I'm not as cynical about that game as I would have been a few weeks ago.
Right, neither am I.
Which is wild. So, which is wild to say. Yeah. Anyway,
yeah, and it almost feels bad that Brady is no longer in New England because that's the measuring stick.
Well, New England or Brady?
If we win the division this year, I'd be like, yeah, we were good and we won, but also Brady wasn't in New England.
I mean, that's a good thing. That means that's the look. Ultimately, that's the luck of the NFL schedule. Like the Bills had the unfortunate distinction of playing in a division with a team that dominated for nearly 2 decades. So other divisions didn't have that. So hey, he's someone else's problem now. So I'm perfectly fine with that.
Alrighty. So yeah, fun times. Thank you very much, Cyrus. Now on to Mr. J. Gelsomino. Jay writes us, Drew and Carl, if you could see a big screen movie in a different, air quotes, different type setting, what would it be? To clarify, mine would be watching Jaws while in an inner tube on a lake or wave pool.
Oh, so like a drive-in substitute.
Kind of.
Yeah, okay. I don't know. The thing with movies for me is like I can enjoy them basically anywhere, but I think the reason why a theater has, persisted for all this time is there is something magical about a communal experience with a piece of, media, be it, a movie or a live concert in a theater, just with other people, kind of experiencing the same thing. There's just something about that is, I don't know. It works. I know, we got to deal with people on their phones and we got to deal with people talking. Yeah. I know all the drawbacks, but you know what? When it made the rounds on Twitter, like that end scene of Avengers Endgame when Cap gets the hammer, spoilers, by the way, and everyone like roars and that someone filmed it on their phone, and that was a thing on Twitter a few months ago because everyone needed like a pick me up from the COVID depression that we're all stuck in.
Yeah, the portal scene on your left side.
Right. And and that and the Thor's hammer scene as well.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm talking about. Like if they just released that video on demand and you got to see that in your house, yeah, I'd jump off the couch and stream too, but like it's not the same as being in that room with all the people having that exact same reaction at the exact same time. You know what I mean? Humans are simple creatures in the end, and like there's something to be said for that group hive mind taking over in a moment like that.
Yeah. I think for mine, I would I think it'd be a lot of fun to watch Jurassic Park in a museum among a dinosaur exhibit.
Interesting.
Because at some point, your mind's going to start to play tricks on you. And you're going to be looking at the exhibit and be like, that thing just moved.
You know what would be kind of fun, though? Maybe watching something like Ghostbusters in one of the actual locations of the film.
In the firehouse?
In the firehouse or in the hotel where they had their first their first call, or, something like that. That would be kind of cool.
Yeah, that would be cool. Close off the street, just project on the side of the firehouse.
Yeah.
Which
they could do. It is on the corner.
All right. So, Jay's question to you, Drew. Have you climaxed at all yet?
Unfortunately, no. I have not partaken in the G1 Climax tournament as of yet, and I keep meaning to try and catch up, but it's hard with everything going on in life. So I'm going to try and catch up to like the best matches. All I know so far is Ishii is having the greatest matches overall. So I mean, just from what I've heard, as he should. Ishii is so underrated and so undervalued in NJPW. Guys, he never has a bad match with anyone ever. He's so good. But by all accounts, it's been a really fun tournament so far, and I look forward to seeing how it all shakes out. I will try my best to catch up to some of the high rated matches of it anyway at some point.
All right.
Yeah.
Jay's question to me: what is the worst thing in Transformers Earth Wars? 3-day wait for building to finalize, getting just boost after boost after boost when your crystal pulls are using premium shards, or using premium shards of some type and getting hit with a duplicate. I think for me, the worst possible thing that can happen is to pull a 2-star character on a shard when I already have that same character in 3 stars, because they don't count it as duplicate, so you don't even get the bonus for the duplicate. So yeah.
All right.
Drew's very confused right now. He's like, I have no idea what you're talking.
Keep on trucking, sir.
All right, moving on to Mr. Adam Williams. I will keep it simple this week, fellas. Just recently dove into Mario 3D All-Stars and have been loving playing these old Mario games. So that got me thinking, what is your favorite Mario game of all time?
Oh man, I'm notoriously bad at this kind of thing.
He's not asking for a list. He's just asking for one.
I know, but that's I can't pick one. I could give you a top. I could give you a handful that I would say are my favorites, plural. And that would be Mario 3, Mario. See, this is hard, man. Mario 3 for sure. 64 feels like it wants to be there, but there's I don't know. Mario 3, Galaxy, and new Super Mario 3D World. Those are my top 3. Boom. Ask me to pick one of them. I don't know that I could.
I was prior to Squadrons, I was playing through Galaxy, and I never played it before, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful experience.
Isn't it though? Beautiful game. Beautiful game.
I will get back to it at some point. The one thing I did not like about Galaxy though is the motion control boards.
Yep. Yep. I know all too well.
Not stand.
Yep, they were bad then, and I doubt they've aged well. That's why I was a little confused and upset that they didn't include Galaxy 2 in that collection, because it was basically like Galaxy 1, everything good about it, and they got rid of some of those annoying motion control stuff and just doubled down on the good stuff. But alas.
So, but I think, and maybe I'm a victim of recency bias, but I think my favorite Mario game of all time is probably going to be Odyssey.
Interesting.
Because that game was just magical.
I enjoy it, although I've gone back to play it recently, and I don't know. There's something about it I'm not quite as into. The collectathon mentality with it just kind of, I don't know.
Gal has that.
They definitely, anything post 64 has that, but like Odyssey took it to an absurd degree where there were just like dozens of the moons or whatever they were moons, right? I forgot. Yeah. Dozens of those things per level, whereas like in 64 there was 5 or 6 stars per level, getting you to a total of 120. Odyssey though is just like there's hundreds plural of those things, and I don't know, it takes a little bit of the I don't. It's not the challenge. It's not the novelty. I don't know. It just feels like more of a chore than a. I don't know. That I'm shooting from the hip here. I'm not sure what I'm trying to say, but.
Well, at least it wasn't required.
No.
Them all.
No, and I will say that the ending of Odyssey is one of the greatest experiences in Mario history. Full stop.
Now, are you talking about the ending of the game or the ending of the New Donk City board?
The ending, which is the one where you go through, like the song is playing and you're going through 2D and 3D and like it
that's
like,
the end of the New Donk City board.
That was just magical.
Yes.
Magical experience. And even the end of the game where you spoilers where you you possess Bowser and you go smashing through stuff too, like just wonderful moments of that game.
Yeah.
But that New Donk City climax was just man, what an excellent love letter to Mario and his history, right? Just in that encapsulated moment.
It really was.
I will give it that for sure.
So, all right, Adam, thank you very much for that. That brings our emails to a close. Now let us move on to the news. Drew, we had a lot of stuff going on the past couple weeks. First and foremost, we got a full-blown trailer for WandaVision.
We did.
And to the surprise of no one, it looks great.
It looks really great, actually. I'm all the way in on whatever this thing is going to be.
Now, I hesitate there.
Oh?
Because between this, Multiverse of Madness, which we will get at some point.
Uh-huh.
And another thing that's being mentioned in another news story we're going to cover.
Uh-huh.
I am kind like, don't get me wrong, trust in Feige, trust what Feige's doing, but like, I'm kind of like, don't, maybe not so much with this, but anyway, I digress. We'll get to that when we get to that story. Yeah, WandaVision looks incredible.
Yeah. The whole, sitcom like micro world or whatever, and Vision realizing that he's in this thing, but he's supposed to be dead, and what's real, what's not. Yeah. Right. Okay. I'm here for this. I'm here for all of it.
I'm guessing that each episode will be framed as a sitcom from a different era.
That will be a rather brilliant approach if they do that, and I can't wait to see how it goes.
Yeah. Like, I think, like, at the end of each episode, like, it's possible that each episode is a reality that Wanda's trying to create, where she gets a happily ever after with Vision.
Yep.
And because she's a child in Sokovia, and they, like, obviously their television from America is so far behind. She grew up with shows that someone her age normally wouldn't grow up with, like Donna Reed, Family Ties, like 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s shows. And so she attempts to create a reality where Vision is alive, and she attempts to create it in the vein of these shows she knows. And at the end of each episode, the reality crumbles in on itself, causing her to have to reshape it and start over and try again.
I'm very curious to see how this is going to last. What kind of lasting impact it's going to leave for Wanda. I'm
very curious to see if I was right at all, because as I'm saying it, I'm like, that sounds like a really good idea for a show.
Yeah. Well, it we'll see if you're right, but that aspect of it combined with the Multiverse of Madness Doctor Strange movie title, I wonder if they're setting up a Wanda heel turn here, but that remains to be seen.
Possible. Like, I mean, her power level was definitely on display in Endgame, where she went toe to toe with Thanos by herself.
And I think
barely flinched.
This is also an opportunity to clarify just what those powers are, because it's always been vague in the movies, unfortunately. So yeah, let's see where it goes. But the trailer was certainly super intriguing to me. So I'm ready to see where they go.
So now moving on to kind of piggyback off this into the other story I was talking about. It's been confirmed this week, Drew, that we're getting Electro in, well, not like 100% confirmed, but every kind of legitimate news outlet for this type of thing is reporting it, that we're getting Electro in the Tom Holland third Spider-Man film, Home, whatever the name is going to be.
Yes.
And not only are we getting Electro, we're getting Jamie Foxx as Electro. Folks, for those of you who probably know, Jamie Foxx has already played Electro in Amazing Spider-Man 2, a film that, while there are some great moments in it, and there are some things that they got more right than pretty much any other Spider-Man film has done, the film itself is extremely flawed and not all that great. And his Electro is one of the things that's commonly pointed to as being one of the bad things about the film. Now, Drew, if you're going to come to me and you're going to say that, Feige says, hey, you know what? We want to do Electro. Jamie Foxx is an incredible actor, which he is. And we're just going to give him another shot at it. We're going to reboot the character. We'll put him in the green and yellow suit. I'd be like, you know what? Great. Fantastic. Go for it. Do it. I look forward to seeing what you're doing. But apparently Jamie Foxx sent out a Twitter and said that, and this tweet was, I guess, taken down quick, something to the effect of that this is going to be the beginnings of a live-action Spider-Verse. Which indicates a merging of the two. And Drew, no. And that's going back to like kind of what I'm thinking with WandaVision and Multiverse of Madness. That kind of opens the door for this type of thing.
This is very weird to me, and I don't know why they're doing it, to be honest. Like, what's the... I don't know. What... I doubt. Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts, and they're all collapsing into each other right now, and I'm not sure what I'm trying to get at. If Marvel wants to do the multiverse, that's fine. But the weird thing is, it's slowly dawned on me, like, how the Spider-Man movies in the MCU are not necessarily critical to the MCU, and I think that's by design because of the Sony deal. Right. So I still kind of think of them as Sony movies, and honestly, they probably are Sony movies from the top down in terms of production and who's in charge. Outside of the fact that they get to use the Marvel MCU stuff and include it.
Continuity.
So, and I'm sure Feige, is very strict on how that stuff can go and how it can be used. So I don't know that Feige's going to want to hitch his wagon to that too deeply. It's weird. Why do it? Like, why go back to the well on that? There has to be a bigger reason at play, obviously. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it. But this is very strange to me, especially when you have numerous villains that could still be introduced into a Spider-Man movie that we have not seen before. I mean, Kraven is right there, dude. Come on.
Kraven. Doctor Octopus there did. There's a lot.
There's enough. There's enough of them that could be done. But we're not. I guess we're not getting that.
Kraven's kind of the last of the top tier.
He is, yeah. Chameleon, if you want him,
I think if you do Kraven, you do Chameleon in the same movie.
Sure. But
just because of their relationship together.
I don't know. It's just strange.
You don't want to Green Goblin, do Hobgoblin.
Right,
yeah?
right. I just find it weird.
It's like I said, Yeah, I have no problem with Jamie Foxx being in a Marvel Cinematic Universe film. Jamie Foxx is a fantastic actor. I like his work. I have no problem with Jamie Foxx being in the next Spider-Man film. Give him another character to be and whatnot. But again, if you're telling me that Kevin Feige just likes him and wants to give him another crack at the character and they're going to reboot it, fine. But I don't know. This thing's making my Peter tingle go off, Drew.
Like I said, there's got to be a bigger play here that we just, we need clarification on. I just think it brings up, like, people going crazy for J.K. Simmons returning is one thing. That's a beloved character, and to be fair, a beloved minor character from a beloved series of films. Say what you want about Spider-Man 3, but 1 and 2 were, unimpeachable. Well, I mean, I can impeach them, but they're beloved. You know what I mean? They're products of their time, but they are beloved films. And J.K. Simmons' part in that is certainly unimpeachable.
Yeah, he owned that character,
right? Bringing him back is one thing, right? But Jamie Foxx's Electro, I'm sorry, but there wasn't enough meat on that bone for me to be like, you know what? He was really, he deserves another kick at that can. No, let's just leave that alone. Let's put that back where it was. I don't need to see Batman Forever Riddler again in another movie.
Well, you're not going to see any Batman Riddler until 2022.
Well, yeah.
But we all kind of knew that was coming.
Anyway, hey, Feige has steered us right this long, but so I'm not trying to question the man. I just question. I don't know how much of this is his say, more or less. We will see.
Okay. Yes, we will see. Couple more points here, and again, this is all on Disney Plus series. We're getting a Nick Fury Disney Plus series.
Sure.
With Samuel L. Jackson.
Sure.
Return.
Why not?
Why not? All the series. Everybody gets a series.
Carl, the name of that show? Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. No relation.
He was in an episode of that.
I know.
And then we have a casting for Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, for the Disney Plus series. Iman Vellani has been cast as Miss Marvel. Now, Drew, I'm not familiar with this actress
nor am I,
or
sir.
any of her work. I am not extremely familiar with Miss Marvel outside of the Champions book that I read for a stretch. I understand this character is beloved, and people really have grown attached to her in a short amount of time. So I'm very happy that those fans are getting what I'm assuming will be a quality treatment of the character in the Disney Plus series. So yeah,
agreed.
More
I second all of that.
Yeah, more Disney Plus Marvel series. I was about to say it's a good thing, but we haven't seen any yet. So
yeah, let's wait and see what they got to show for themselves. But yeah.
So a friend of mine said he read an article. So take all this for what you will.
His first time.
That the reason the Falcon and the Winter Soldier keeps getting pushed back as far as it has is because apparently there's a major Black Widow spoiler in it.
I see. Well, that
makes sense.
That's plausible.
Yeah. But at the same time, guys, can we just edit it out, maybe?
Unless it's crucial to the plot.
Yeah. It's like, come on.
Yeah, that's tough. That's a tough spot to be in.
Yeah.
I know that, again, I everything I said about the theater experience stands, but, at the same time, these companies do need to start getting real about, the realities of that experience in the coming year or years. It might not be coming back, at least not in the United States, because we're anyway. We'll see what happens. I hope we see it sooner than later. Then again, maybe a break from all of this is just what we need, and when the time is right and they do release new Falcon and Winter Soldier stuff and Black Widow, we'll be ready to get together with some old friends again, and it'll make everything kind of better. Absence does make the heart grow fonder. Indeed.
Okay, that does it for our news, unless you can think of anything.
No, I'm drawing a blank.
Okay, so what are the main course of the show this week is going to be is, Drew, you had sent our group chat that we have with Alan, who's been conspicuously absent from the emails, an article from Bleeding Cool in which Punisher creator Jerry Conway kind of had a statement to make on the comic book industry in its current incarnation. Mm-hmm. And I found this to be really an interesting article, and I wanted to discuss it in further on the show because it kind of goes along with a lot of what we have been talking about multiple different times about the comic book industry. So, to familiarize our listeners with this, it's not incredibly long. I'm just going to read it.
Okay. And you might want to give Jerry Conway's bona fides on when you before you get into it.
You are much more familiar with him than I am. Have at it, sir.
Jerry Conway is a comics, do I want to say legend? I mean, he's a long time pro, okay? He wrote The Death of Gwen Stacy. He created The Punisher. He created Jason Todd, Killer Croc. He wrote Justice League. He wrote the first major crossover between Marvel and DC, that being the Superman versus Spider-Man. Just a he's a comics man, and he's been in the game a long time, and he's seen a thing or two, and he knows a thing or two. And Jerry Conway is more or less, one of the few. I don't want to say one of the few, but he is one of the living legends that are still with us, and that we should, celebrate.
When he speaks, we should listen.
Yeah, the guy's done it all, and he's. Hey, if you do The Death of Gwen Stacy, you have my attention. Okay, you've done some notable things in this industry. So,
arguably, and this probably goes to shame on me for not knowing him as well as I should, because he wrote arguably the quintessential story of my favorite character.
Correct.
So, the article. These are the words of Jerry Conway. To state the obvious, comic book publishing is in serious trouble, with a business model that almost literally has no future. Yet comic books are a source of intellectual property for exploitation in all sorts of popular media and have never, ever had greater potential. So why is this? Why do comics as a storytelling form, superhero or otherwise, have such an enormous impact on popular culture, but comic book publishers are struggling to survive? Why are publishers almost universally failing to succeed at actual publishing? My basic answer is they're pursuing the wrong market, and they've been doing so with increasing desperation since the late 1970s. Let's put aside the incredible business stupidity of depending on a single distribution method, direct sales to single audience comic book stores. The problem is bigger. The defined audience for mainstream comics is an audience that by definition constantly shrinks. For a variety of self-enforcing reasons, publishers have defined the primary audience for mainstream comics as, in effect, long-term fans and potential collectors. Hence, fan-oriented navel-gazing continuity, triannual events, in quotes, reboots, collector-oriented variant covers, etc. Every single one of these marketing ploys is designed solely to appeal to existing readers. Even reboots, obstinately intended to offer jumping on points to new readers, actually require familiarity with previous iterations to provide interest. New readers aren't welcomed by existing creative strategy at the two mainstream publishers. If anything, new readers are actually discouraged by the publishers' frantic pursuit of motivated existing readership. The clubhouse is closed. Stay out. Publishers, of course, will disagree with this analysis and say they're always trying to provide on-ramps to new readers. But any serious look at what they're offering in the main reveals a decided tilt, in fact, a massive tilt, toward privileging the existing readership. And this makes sense in a way because of the cultural creative shift in the editorial direction of publishing houses that can be traced back to the era I'm from, the late 60s and early 70s. In the mid-1960s, around 1967, DC Comics offered a weekly tour of their offices during the summer. I went on that tour, and like others, Len Wein and Marv Wolfman among them, became a regular. At one point, I had a conversation with then-editor Julie Schwartz. We were talking about a Green Lantern story, and I made some fanboy comment about what I'd hoped would happen. Julie paused and looked at me. How old are you? 14, I said. He snorted. Too old. You're not my reader. And he walked off. I later learned that at DC, and also at Marvel, in the 1960s, the commonly accepted view of the comic book readership was a kid, undoubtedly male, between the ages of 9 and 13. What today's book publishers would call middle grade readers. This makes sense. If we're honest about it, the basic root appeal of superhero stories is to that part of ourselves that lives in the pre-sexualized, pre-adolescent dream state in which anything is possible. It's the world of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Like Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, or Philosopher's Stone if you want to be pedantic, young adults and adults can enjoy superhero stories too. Even want those stories to evolve and mature, just as the Potter books have evolved and matured. But, regardless of what appeal the first Potter book might have for older and existing readers, its primary readership was intended to be and remains middle grade 8 to 12. And the same used to be true for comics, particularly superhero comics, until my generation came along. Yeah, we boomers effed it up as usual. When I and my cohorts replaced the creatives who'd given the comic book business massive success in the 1960s, folks like Stan Lee and Julie Schwartz, we brought with us our boomer self-obsession. We didn't want to create comics for kids. We wanted comics for us. The origin of the comic book superhero shift from middle grade readership in the 60s to young adult readership in the 70s and adult readership in the 90s and beyond. The refusal of boomer creatives and editors like myself and others to let it go. We redefined the readership comics were aimed at, coinciding with a shift in distribution that allowed that redefinition to stick. The result is a dead end for comic book publishing as a business. How would I change this? I'd cancel every existing superhero comic book and publish a new limited line for middle grade readership. Simplify characters and storylines and eliminate every event that requires more than a passing familiarity with the basic simplified continuity. 10 to 15 titles. For existing readers, I'd offer a separate, higher-priced graphic novel line with whatever expanded adult storylines creators and readers wanted to explore. But this would be separate, not monthly, not the mainstream. And I'd do everything possible to get monthly comics into supermarkets and movie theaters and Walmart and Target and Costco and offer subscription services through Amazon. Pursue every alternate distribution avenue possible. The present course taken by the majority major publishers is a dead end. They're pursuing the wrong readership. There's a bigger audience out there. We just have to welcome them. And that's the end of the article.
I mean, I cannot argue with any of that.
I can't either.
He hit the nail on the head, and and we say this as guys that are clearly out of the age range that he wants to target, and obviously we still love comics and we love our adult targeted comics, but at the same time, he is 1,000% right about making it a sustainable business for the future. And we've talked about this before. The comic shop is a place that it's not a friendly place. You know that. You and I know that.
Right. Certain shops.
But I mean, overall, that's the reputation of the comic shop in popular culture. For even like, come on, man, comic book guy is on The Simpsons for a reason. Yeah. Like it's like you said, the door is closed. No, whatever. You're not allowed or whatever. It's true. This stuff is fairly impenetrable, and it's hard for newcomers to jump on, and it's especially hard to get them to jump on when they don't even know where they can get the stuff. So yeah, I don't know if his strategy going forward would even work to cater to the youth of today. I don't know, but it's better. It's a better idea than what the industry seems to want to do. Everyone wanted to poo-poo DC doing that Walmart deal, but I don't know. I thought that was pretty smart in a way. The collectors might poo-poo it and say that the stuff's going to get battered on the shelf at Walmart, and that's true. It's not, you're probably not going to find stuff in the condition you would in a comic shop, but that's not what it's there for. It's there for people to get and read, and that's what the industry has to do. They got to find new readers and hook them, especially young ones. So, yeah, I mean, I want to give a big old +1 to everything that Jerry Conway had to say, and I hope someone read that and is listening to some degree. I'm not saying to shutter the comic shops and to stop, the mature readers stuff and whatnot, but yeah, the industry does need to think about the future for sure, because it won't last forever.
Yeah, and this is definitely something that we've touched on a lot in the past. I've always said that in order for comic books to begin to grow again and not just survive, that they need to get the books they need to do two things. One, they need to reduce the price of the books and get them into mainstream retailers. Like you said, Walmart, Target, Costco, convenience stores, Barnes & Noble, anywhere where you can get them in, where a periodical is sold, get them in there.
Yep.
Like, how they got that end cap of the checkout aisle of the grocery store?
Yep, there should be comics on that thing.
Everything from our waist down should be comic books at no higher than $2 a book.
Yeah, that's going to be tough nowadays, but I agree.
You need to and you know what? Here's the best news. Kids don't care about premium paper.
No.
Do you care about premium paper when you were a kid and reading it? No, you cared about the content, you cared about the story, you cared about the artwork.
I didn't know any better.
Yeah, sure, the artwork looks better on premium paper, but you know what? That's not what's going to hook the kid. I mean, it's part of it, but it's not like the end-all, be-all of it. And I really think, I've been thinking about this a lot. And, I got my books this past week, and, I read the main Batman title, and right now the storyline is the Joker War. And so Joker in this one has acquired all of Bruce Wayne's assets, his wealth, his company, all that stuff, and has basically just become he's doing what someone like that with that resources would do. It's a question of, what if the Batman, that old question of what if Bruce Wayne did not have those resources? And they're saying, okay, we're going to address that question. We're going to take the resources we're going to give them the Joker. So there's a splash panel in the most recent issue where like Gotham City is just on fire, and there's clowns running around, like people are getting killed left and right. And I'm just reading this. I'm like, you've taken this to such an extreme. You've had to take this to such an extreme because of escalation and all these other things over the years that this is no longer believable, even in a comic book world.
Yeah, I hear you.
Forget a real world. If you're telling me that something like this is a fairly regular occurrence in Gotham City, which it is, who is ever going to live there, even in a comic book world? Like, and it's just, and so many of them have gone to just such an extreme. And one of the things that I would probably do is say, like, you know, okay, you're going to re-gear it towards younger readers. And you know what? The technology in any of these books can never be more than 10 years advanced than what's on the market. Because remember when it was like actually an event? When a superhero or something, like the Avengers or something, would go into space.
Yeah.
Now they basically just have like teleporters and an elevator that can just go up to space.
Yeah.
Like, it's so far to an extreme. That's one thing that really stuck out to me. The other thing that stuck out to me is that I've noticed that mainstream stories in like Marvel and DC have in recent years have been having less and less impact on me as far as like what I can remember and what I still recall as good or whatnot. Whereas like I can still tell you about stories from like Amazing Spider-Man or Batman from when I was a kid because it was the first time I'd heard those stories. And I'm starting to think that there's a cycle that these characters, especially these top tier mainstream characters, kind of go through in your life. I'm referring to myself and yourself and our listeners, that like if you get to a certain point, there's no new stories to be told. You're just rehashing old stories with a new gloss on them.
Yeah.
Or a new twist here and there. And I'm finding that, like, you know, and it's why I'm thankful for companies like Image. Whereas like so much stuff that Image does is creative and inventive, and everything they're doing. Dear Lord, can we please get Saga back soon?
Man, now that you say it, oh my God, I don't want to say I forgot about it, but God, you're right. It has been a minute.
So, and it's like, you know, I'm reading this book, this Batman issue, and this Joker War thing going on, and I'm like, I've read this before. I've read this maybe 2 times before. The most memorable time was the Nightfall series. This is kind of just that with a different, like, how many times can Gotham City go to hell? You know, how many times can Peter almost get the girl but then lose her? How many times can he be short on his rent?
Yeah.
You know, how long can Aunt May stay alive? And it's just like,
yeah, no, I hear you completely. I mean, ultimately, all this stuff with comics, in a way, dude, if you think about it, it all happened by accident. Like, the ongoing stories, like, I don't know that they were ever designed to go this long. They weren't designed to go this long, but they just kind of like became a big popular thing, and now they kind of have to go this long because they're an institution. But, you know, every story has to have an ending, man. And there's only, like you said, there's only so many stories to tell eventually with these characters. I say that as someone who loves these characters, but, you know, at a certain point, there's only so much they have to say. And then you're just repeating the same things ad nauseum, to diminishing returns. So how about you find closure with them? If you've made your point, you've said your piece, you've maybe learned some lessons and stuff along the way, then wrap it up, and its legacy will be secured forever. And then, pick it up down the road with a new interpretation or something. Dare I say a reboot? I don't know. I don't have the answer exactly, but it like, you know me, dude. I love, just case in point, Daredevil.
Yeah.
How many times can this guy's life be completely built up and torn apart again over and over? It defies any and all credulity that it's possible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It does. My suspension of disbelief is completely non-existent at this point. Especially with some of the stuff going on in that book now. But I don't know. I'm just kind of rambling now.
I think that, like, you're not wrong, but at the same time, like, kind of going back to the cycle that I was talking about, and then also what the article is talking about. So, like, there are things that you and I are reading right now that we've read 2 or 3 times before in different form, right?
Yeah.
So, but at the same time, the argument can be made that, well, for a quote unquote new reader, this is the first time they've read that.
Well,
so there's a purpose to those stories kind of being more or less recycled, but
they're not reading them though.
Yeah, as the article mentioned, we're not bringing in new readers.
Right. There's nobody new reading that third iteration of Peter, gets dumped by girl. Like it's been done a zillion times, and at this point, it's playing to the people who are already familiar with the trope. It's comfort.
Right.
It's comfort food almost. I don't know. I'm not really sure where to go with it. Because the alternative is like, okay, well, cancel every title. Captain America's gone, Spider-Man's gone, Daredevil's gone. Like, and that sounds kind of scary, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, but you will have, number one, they have decades of stories that are going to be available to people forever. But number two, a story has to have an ending ultimately, and look at the MCU. Because unfortunately, actors don't live forever like comic book characters do. And they had to kind of come up with an endpoint because people were going to get too old for their roles or bail out or whatnot. And how many times have we said about Endgame? Like, you know what? Endgame feels like the end, and it's going to keep going, and we're going to watch all the new stuff. But like, everybody pretty much got a nice little arc wrapped up, and that feels okay. Lessons were learned. Characters had had their arcs, and it feels like, you know what, that's their story, and I'm okay with it being over, and it will live forever. That will live forever. It doesn't have to keep going ad nauseum. What you gave me is enough.
Yeah, and when you say an ending, it doesn't mean that the character themselves have to end.
No.
Just the story of that character. Like, the story of Batman can end with him standing on a rooftop looking over Gotham City. Because we know even if that format doesn't continue, that character would still be doing that in one form or another.
Mm-hmm.
So when you say the story has to end, it doesn't mean that every character has to die.
No.
It just means that, it's time to move on from this interpretation, this form of this story, onto other things.
Right.
Yeah, it's really tough because, I've experienced, and I'm sure you have as well, a lot of different comic book shops in our time. And, I've sung the praises of Pulp 716 as being kind of, a new breed of comic book shop that is really doing things different and seems to be doing things well. Other shops are, their customer base is essentially generational. And, they depend on a father or mother bring their kid in to introduce them to, that world.
Yep.
And because they have their father or mother there with them, and their father or mother is a customer, a regular customer of that store, they'll be welcomed in with open arms because they have that generational connection. Whereas if it's some kid who just walks in off the street, doesn't necessarily know what they're looking for, God forbid if it's a girl, might not have that same guidance and whatnot. And I want to be clear, I'm not talking about any one shop in specific. I'm talking about a type of shop. And I know that you and I have both experienced those types of shops.
Like I said, the comic book guy on The Simpsons is a trope for a reason, and he was introduced 30 years ago.
Yeah.
It's a thing. It's very much a thing. Comic shops are not necessarily the best of environments. There's great ones, but again, it's a trope for a reason. So, anyway, I digress.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of questions out there to which we may have answers to, but the eternal problem, Drew, is those in charge to make the changes and powers that be, they don't listen to us, even though they should.
I'm curious if any of our listeners have any thoughts on this topic at all. So I would encourage them to get in touch if they have something to say about this, if they have ideas, if they have, if they disagree, what have you, bring it on.
By all means, dear listener, if you have thoughts on this, if you have questions or thoughts that you want to share and have them read on the show, I got some places you can go to express those thoughts. You can follow us on Twitter at Devils Do Pod. You can like our Facebook page at facebook.com/DevilsDoPod. You can email us at thedevilsdopod@gmail.com, or you can find all these resources available to you at our website, thedevilsdopodcast.com. Drew, I believe that's going to wrap it up for us tonight. Any final thoughts?
No. No, not really. Fun discussion tonight, though. I really enjoyed it. So,
yes, indeed. Folks, if you have the means, and given the digital age we live in, you have the means, after you hear this, go plop on a Van Halen song, raise a glass, tip a hat to Eddie Van Halen. My personal suggestion would be Run Around from Awful Carnal Knowledge, just because it's my favorite track off my favorite album. All right, folks, it's going to do it tonight. We appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you again soon.